During the mid-19th century, medical attention and distribution of supplies was hard to do in times of war in the United States. This left many injured, dead, or having permanent damage.
However, one woman changed and improved this almost single-handedly with her own determination to help those wounded of war.
Clara Harlow Barton was born on December 25, 1821, in North Oxford, Massachusetts.
She was one of 6 other children.
She began a career in the field of teaching in 1829 in North Oxford, Massachusetts.
The American Civil War broke out on April 12, 1861 in Fort Sumter, South Carolina.
7 days later, the Baltimore riots occurred in Baltimore, Maryland.
On that day, Southern sympathizers injured men from the 6th Infantry, Massachusetts. The War Department placed these men in the Senate chamber of the U.S. Capitol.
Some of these men were former students of Miss Barton from Massachusetts.
Clara helped these men by supplying them with food and necessities from her own house.
Word caught on about Clara's actions, and people helped this cause by donating supplies for the men as well.
This marked the beginning of her work in the American Civil War.
In June of 1861, Clara started the distribution agency of supplies. Her spirit and determination to help the soldiers eventually got her a grant, which allowed her to distribute supplies in the battlefield.
Clara aided the Union in many battles. Some of these battles include Battle of Cedar Mountain, Battle of Chantilly, Battle of Antietam, Battle of Fredericksburg, Siege of Fort Wagner, and battles of the Wilderness and Spotsylvania Courthouse.
A year after the beginning of the Civil War over in Europe, Henry Dunant published an overview of the 1859 Battle of Suffreno in Un Souvenir de Suffreno.
In the Battle of Solferino, there was very few doctors and medical division. The army had scarce amount of equipment. On account of the lack of care, many soldiers died from minor wounds.
Help of wounded soldiers and providing them with proper medical attention is the basis of the International Red Cross, and Henry Dunant is considered one of the founders of the International Red Cross. Clara Barton was not aware of the Red Cross at the time. As the American Civil War continued, Clara Barton was referred as the Angel of the Battlefield.
This nickname was stemmed from the letter written by a doctor who knew her. He called her Homey Angel or a Motherly Angel.
In March 1864, Clara offered to lead the office correspondence with friends of the missing men of the United States Army.
President Abraham Lincoln gave Clara an introduction to the people who have missing persons, saying, "To the friends of missing persons, Miss Clara Barton has kindly offered to search for the missing persons of war. Please address her, giving her the name, regiment, and company of the missing prisoner of war." Over this 4-year project, she and her team responded to 63,182 letters and found over 22,000 men.
Around the time Clara joined the search for finding missing men, the International Red Cross was established in Europe. The United States did not join because it did not want to be involved in foreign affairs.
The Civil War finally came to a close in 1865. However, this doesn't stop Clara in continuing her caring work.
In 1869, Clara traveled to Europe for health reasons, where she heard of the International Red Cross.
When the Franco-Prussian War started, Clara assisted many, including doing Paris relief work in 1871.
Upon her return to the United States, Clara published a pamphlet, The Red Cross of the Geneva Convention, What It Is, to spread the awareness of this organization and gain support for a chapter to be formed in America.
Clara Barton officially established the American Red Cross on May 21, 1881.
In the fall of 1881, the American Red Cross helped rebuild houses which were burned down and destroyed by the Michigan forest fires. This was the mark of the peacetime disaster relief of the American Red Cross. They also assisted in the fires of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and in the 1890s, the severe thunderstorms of Kentucky, Texas, and Iowa.
President Chester A. Arthurs signed the Treaty of Geneva in 1882. This officially meant that the United States joined the International Red Cross.
In 1898, Clara Barton sets up the American Red Cross headquarters in Glen Echo, Maryland, where she lived until her death.
Also during that year, Miss Barton does relief work in Cuban concentrado camps. In 1902, Clara led the U.S. delegation to the International Conference of the Red Cross in St. Petersburg, Russia, at age 81.
Even though she was the founder of the American Red Cross, on May 14, 1904, she resigned as president of the American Red Cross of 23 years because other members thought she was not good enough anymore and was too old.
However, she didn't retire after her resignation. In 1905, Clara founded the National First Aid Association of America and is president of it. Although it didn't last, it was the first of its kind to offer education in first aid training.
Sadly, on April 12, 1912, Clara Barton died due to double pneumonia in Glen Echo, Maryland, at age 90.
Clara Barton will be forever known as an American role model and the founder of the American Red Cross.
Although the concept of the Red Cross was not by Clara Barton, she was the first to establish a lasting Red Cross society in America, as well as help those affected by disaster.
It was by her idea that peacetime disaster relief effort be added to the International Red Cross mission, a concept that wasn't formed originally by the organization.
In many ways, Clara reformed medical attention, safety, and relief work in the United States.
Safety was largely improved. For example, if countries were to go to war without signing onto the Red Cross, women, children, civilians, and possible volunteers could be subjected to harsh warfare. However, with those countries who joined the Red Cross, including the United States, all those that could possibly be hurt in war are ensured safety and neutrality on both sides.
She ultimately protected the citizens of the United States and for possible wars later in the future. Before the American Civil War, the doctor was the only one in an American fort with the scientific training.
By bringing the Red Cross to America, volunteers of the Red Cross had training and therefore could help more in any crisis. Clara Barton also brought disaster and war preparedness to the United States.
She felt that it is better to be ready for a problem than fix up most of it later. The United States didn't really think like this until the American Red Cross was effective in the country.
Storage rooms in Red Cross building establishments were filled with necessities, and she even kept supplies in her own home in Glen Echo.
When the United States went into the Spanish War, it is because of Clara Barton that the American Red Cross could go into effect immediately because they were prepared.
The American Red Cross assisted in numerous global wars, such as World War I and World War II. The American Red Cross immediately responded in World War I, sending 170 nurses and surgeons who assisted on both sides of the war. In World War II, American volunteers joined the 7.5 million Red Cross volunteers and the 39,000 paid staff.
Clara Barton's reform wasn't something that she planned to do, but rather it just happened. Her main focus was to help those affected by war and natural disasters.
Her concept ultimately resulted in a mass improvement of medical attention and peacetime disaster relief effort in the United States.